We are talking to Carol Mitchell-Lawrence from Macy's. She is a HR director at Macy's. She's a results-driven HR and payroll professional with a proven record of achievement in implementing process improvements using digital technologies in the retail industry, experienced in directing large, highly complex digital projects while managing relationships across multiple brands and independent business units. She possesses a unique combination of functional and technical expertise with a balanced approach to troubleshooting and creative problem solving. Welcome, Carol. Good afternoon. We are very excited to speak to you today, and thanks for joining us and sharing your experiences with our audiences. Can you please quickly introduce yourself and your role at Macy's?
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here with you today. My name is Carol Mitchell-Lawrence, and I've worked with Macy's department stores for over 31 years. I've spent the majority of my career in the finance space, with my expertise being in payroll processing. And so I'm excited to be here and to share some of our experiences with you.
Great. So Carol, let's get started. So as a lot of organizations are moving towards cloud, Macy's has taken the cloud journey several years ago, and we've noticed that it's been a pretty big paradigm shift for customers when they move from cloud, from on-prem to cloud. And it's a cultural change as well in terms of change management and how you deal with continuous delivery model where your cloud provider is pushing changes more frequently, requiring you to do a lot of continuous testing. So can you tell us a little bit about how did your team manage this new dynamic, and what role has automation played in this context?
Absolutely. I led the payroll implementation team from for the payroll transformation, from payroll transformation standpoint. We moved from a highly customized payroll system on-prem into the cloud in 2018. Our goals were to push work down to the lowest level possible and to stop the handshakes that perpetuate manual work. We implemented the core HR, compensation, benefits, and talent management and payroll modules when we moved to the cloud. At that time, we were receiving monthly updates that had us in a constant state of testing from one month to the next. A lot of changes were being released and delivered that we were not able to adopt. We did not have the bandwidth to be able to test the monthly updates and also test and deal with any change management that would come about with adopting new functionality. So we remain in a current state for about 3 years, just trying to keep the wheels on the bus and maintain. Since 2020, our automation has been adopting the CloudTestr platform, which has taken a lot of the manual work off of our plate. We spend less time performing manual tests and more time, dealing with change management and adopting new functionalities. We're 3 years in, and we've finally been able to redirect our resources to focus on new innovation and automation in the HCM space. So we also are in the process of rolling out the Oracle Recruiting Cloud, which at this point in time, we're going to use the CloudTestr to be able to help with that testing from an implementation standpoint. And we will be ensuring that we are using from day one the CloudTestr format platform for our testing from day one with rolling out that module. So we're in a good space now, and the automation of testing has helped us with adopting the CloudTestr.
Great, that's great. So Let's talk specifically about payroll, since Macy's deals with a large volume of payroll data. How are you able to reconcile the payroll data and be confident whenever you're pushing any changes that are coming in, whether from your cloud provider or any tax related updates that also come more frequently nowadays? So how are you able to ensure that your payroll data is accurate, and how is automation helping in that space as well?
Well, that's a great question. And when we went live with over 200,000 colleagues. So needing a tool to automate our regression testing is absolutely essential. And before moving to cloud, we had a comparison tool that we leveraged for all of our payroll testing. While I was preparing to perform our parallel regression testing during our implementation stage of our project, I realized that there was not a similar product or tool on the market for HCM cloud. Our current vendor at the time was not developing a tool. And so I realized quickly that we were going to be in a tough space if we did not have some type of automation to help us identify all of the potential issues that may exist with the 200,000 colleague and payroll. So in 2018, I was introduced to Sunera Tech, who was building out a payroll reconciliation tool. And I was given a demo of the tool. And what I liked most about the demo is that it was leveraging the delivered payroll reports out of HCM. So that meant that I did not have to create a custom report to extract the data. I could leverage the data that's already being extracted from what was delivered in the product. Also, with these are reports that we use on a day in and day out basis, or at least our payroll department does, for all balancing and reconciliation from our incoming file feeds and processing earnings, deductions, taxes, to our outgoing general ledger files. These reports are being used. So it was a great way to leverage existing reports and make me feel comfortable that the data that was being compared in the tool was data that we were using and we were comfortable with using. So these reports are being used on a weekly basis to balance and reconcile our payroll. And I was comfortable that it would allow us to get a good glance at what was going on in our payroll as we adopted new tax updates and any type of changes in the product to make sure that nothing had changed in our fast formula, any custom or configurations that we had included in our format in our system, and it made me very comfortable with using the product. And again, it was something that I did not have to go out and build a custom report to import that data. So we were very fortunate that this tool came along when it did, and we're leveraging it not only for our updates, but also our tax updates that Vertex sends out on a monthly basis to make sure that taxes are calculated as expected.
That's great. Thank you for that detailed explanation on how you're dealing with the payroll data validation. So let's talk about, what were the different factors you considered while you were evaluating and deciding on the automation platform or services for your HR and payroll automation testing?
Sure, there were several key points that we wanted to ensure that the automated testing would accomplish. That it had an end-to-end automated testing suite for all of the modules that we had adopted, and a built-in framework that was scalable as we roll out additional modules as we're doing at this current time. We wanted it to have an enterprise platform that supported multiple applications, not only in the cloud, but our on-premise and our custom applications, and be able to test end-to-end using those applications as well. We wanted them to be an Oracle release validation partner, which enables acceleration and automation with pre-built testing libraries to and be able to reduce the onboarding of new releases and the testing of those new releases. We wanted the ability to turn around these execution of the test cases within 5 business days. Another thing we wanted to do is for it to produce documentation that met our internal audit obligations. We're being audited, as most companies do, to ensure that appropriate testing has been done before we're adopting these changes, and having a product that actually gives us the documentation of the test scenarios that have been tested was very important to us. We also wanted the ability to have a comparison tool, right, that compared before and after test results with the releases. And so those were some of the major things that we were looking for in a product when we were considering a automated testing solution.
That's great. So now that you have the automation testing solution that you have in place, how has the your continuous delivery that is being provided to you has been helpful in terms of what kind of benefits are you realizing with automation being in place currently for the continuous changes that are coming in?
The benefits that we've realized is that if there's a change in UI, as we've mentioned, there are constant changes. Those changes are called out to us so that we can deal with change management. If there are changes in the time that it takes for a process to run, those things are instantly called out to us, and we're able to work back with our partners at Oracle to identify what the issues are and work on a rapid resolution. So those are the two things, major things that has allowed us to be able to work more efficiently with the project, with the product, sorry, and that I would call out that's been beneficial to us.
So in terms of customers that are currently going through this process of either implementing Cloud SaaS or have already implemented, can you talk about some of the best practices that have worked well for Macy's that you would recommend for these customers?
Sure. The one thing that I wanted to ensure is that I involved all the subject matter experts when we were, for each business unit, when we were building out the test strategy. I think that that's the best case scenario for you to be successful, is to have your subject matter experts at the table for each module. I also recommend that before each quarterly patch is taken, you do a P2T of your development databases. You want your test database to closely mirror what's in production. For example, with the comparison tool that we use, one of our strategies for testing is that we extract a report on a payroll that has already been processed in production. And then we roll back that payroll to the starting point. And we have CloudTestr run through all the steps that were rolled back. And then we run the same report and we load those into the comparison tool to see if there are any changes. And it helps us to quickly identify any changes in the product that we were not expecting, and we're able to deal with that, whether or not something broke in our fast formulas and our configuration, we're able to quickly identify those things. So that was a process that we put in place from the payroll perspective. I would say also full disclosure of your processing steps and configuration group. We're looking for CloudTestr to call out not only UI changes, but if a process in a calc normally runs for 25 minutes, we want it to run after we receive the update for 25 minutes. And if it doesn't, we need to know why. But in order to make sure that we're comparing apples to apples, we need to make sure that you're using the same process configurations that we're using in production, that you're running through the same steps that we would have run through in production, so that we're really comparing apples to apples when we're looking at the results after the testing is completed. I would also recommend that you include reports in your test cases, both delivered and custom reports. We have, and early on, had custom reports that would break, and you may not find out until payroll has processed in production and know that those reports are not producing the data anymore. And also with the delivered reports, because we're such a large company, our reports do take a little time to run. So we want to make sure that we're evaluating those run times, and if there's any fluctuation in those run times, we want to be able to quickly deal with those, because we have to quickly turn around a payroll process within a day. And I would say include your CloudTestr business partners in your release review with Oracle, and make sure that we're getting the same information. So I make sure that they're in the same meetings that we're in, and they're side by side like a partner with us, to make sure that they have the best experience in their testing, and that they're not cut off guard with any changes that may have happened. And then lastly, I would say schedule quarterly meetings to make sure you're aligned with your business partners, and of any changes that have occurred. There are times where certain modules are turning on new UIs that change different things. Security could change in how we grant security in a role. And so one of the things we did is made sure that when we're testing our test cases, that they're being tested with the same security roles that we're used and assigned in our production environment. That way, if CloudTestr comes across performing a function and they determine a roadblock, it may have something to do with the security that was granted for that role. And so that helps us also identify those issues as well. So I would just encourage you to, all aspects of your business, try to closely emulate what you do on a normal basis, so that you're more successful in the outcomes of the test results that you get from the product.
That's great. Carol, thank you so much for your time and providing your valuable insights to our audience today. And thank you so much for joining the Digital Acceleration Summit.
Thank you. I really enjoyed sharing my experiences and my journey to the cloud and our process simplification. Your panel discussion and keynote speakers have really been insightful, and I've learned a lot from the experience. So I thank you so much for having me.